Oh hey there, let's talk comics. Alright, and we're back. It's Wednesday today, so when you see this, it will be Thursday. And this week, I have two comics for you that both feature some kick-butt women. This is the kind of content I'm trying to cover. Let's get started. First off, it is The Life of Captain Marvel by Marvel. This is #1. Came out brand new on Wednesday. And I have to say, I've never been particularly interested in Carol Danvers. I'm sorry. I know there's a movie coming out and I'm excited for it. I'm excited about all comic book movies coming out for the most part. But this was really interesting because I love to look at the backstory of comic book characters, especially well-known superheroes, because their backstories can differ so much. They change writers so often, and you never know where a certain writer is going to take your favorite character in a certain direction. And I have to say, I was really impressed with the backstory of Captain Marvel. It starts by letting you know what her family is like, where she's from. You get some insight about what made her into the hero that she is and known for, Captain Marvel. And you also get to look at her relationship with Tony Stark, which is really cute actually, and Tony Stark can be kind of an ass. Well, you know. But he was really cute in this too. I mean, he only pops up a few times. It's mostly about Carol, but still, I like to see the relationships that create the person that is the superhero. I also love to see superheroes like wailing on bad guys, don't get me wrong, and there is some of that in this comic as well, but you really get a sense for Carol Danvers, not just Miss Marvel, and you see the way that the Miss Marvel moniker sort of weighs on Carol Danvers. You learn about her family. It's not picture perfect. I think that's something that everybody can relate to. But there's some dark stuff in this comic, and the troubles that her family had shaped her into the woman that she is now, and you're getting definitely a taste for it. She has to return home. Something happens. She's there for longer than intended, and she really has to reconcile with herself as a person. And I think that's really interesting. A lot of times I feel like the person narrative is left out of the comic book narrative. So this was great. If you're into Captain Marvel, this was an awesome first issue. And I say that not caring about Captain Marvel, but very interested in reading the second issue. So that's a testament to how good this was. But I am here to talk about some other kick-butt girls. Listen, what little girl didn't want to be in a biker gang when she was a kid? Let me tell you, I did. I put that little card in the spokes of my wheels so it made that cool sound while I was riding around the cul-de-sac with all my other girlfriends on their bikes. Yeah, well, this is basically that fantasy come true. Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan. You know him, he's written Saga, he's written Y the Last Man, extremely popular, all his works are amazing, and this one was no exception. So Paper Girls shares a lot of the same themes that Captain Marvel shares in its first issue, and that is the types of things that help women become the women that they are. And in this case, it has to do with a really cool biker gang, a precocious little ginger girl who smokes like a chimney. I really loved this comic. It was like Stranger Things and It, that sort of ragtag 80s nostalgia look, but just some cool kids doing cool stuff, and also some sci-fi in there too, which appeals to me greatly. When I visited the comic book store, I was kind of like, I have a long week, I don't really want to read a whole trade paperback, because when I get the comics, I shoot the video the same day, I don't want to rush, I'm tired. And John was like, nah, you'll read right through this because it's so good. And he wasn't lying. I was skeptical, but I read right through it because it was that good. You are endeared instantly to all the characters, and I think that this, even though the protagonist is a young girl, she's 12, I think that this is a book for anybody to read because the dialogue is just so great. It's so on the nose for kids this age, and it really just kind of throws you back to being sort of just a jerky little kid, you know, and like hanging out with your friends, but stuff gets real very quickly. And that is looking sort of at the different lives that these girls live. It's sort of mentioned like some of these girls are the upper crust, and another one of them sort of, even though she's the leader of the gang, you sense that she's, my phone just went off. Even though she's the leader of the gang, you sort of get the sense that she's not as well off as them, and when you go and you meet her family amidst this strange sort of apocalyptic thing that's happening, her family's, you know, it's kind of in shambles. I don't know, it's just kind of sad. And the whole thing with Captain Marvel too was that her family wasn't great and her dad was kind of a jerk, and you know, I think it resonates, and it can resonate with anybody, whether you're male or you're female, about the trials and tribulations that your family faced, even if you have a really happy family, and the ways that it shaped you into the person that you are now. Now Paper Girls, they're still 12, it's not like it's showing them growing up or anything, but it definitely gives you an outlook on why they are the way they are, and you know, the kind of the nerdy girl has the best family, and the girl who's a little more rough around the edges but still really caring and smart and a leader has the rougher family. And I just think that's really interesting, and I think it's really cool to show the backstories of these women who are really kick butt, or these girls, you know, the little girls. So Paper Girls was really, really interesting. But I have to say, as you know from when I reviewed The Realm, I have a thing for strange winged creatures and flying bats. Don't all bats fly? What I meant was bats you can fly on. I want one. I'll take good care of it, I promise. And I loved the ones in this one. They were so doofy looking. They looked like a flamingo had a strange baby with a pterodactyl. But look at how goofy it looks. He literally looks like he's going, meh. I think Paper Girls is a good read for somebody who's looking for something that isn't so superhero centric. I know that comic books can sometimes feel like all caped superheroes getting ready to save the day and all that stuff, but this was more about just normal kids. Weird stuff happens, but in a normal world. You don't have to like suspend your belief as much because the world seems normal. I mean, there's George Bush signs because it's 1988 out in people's yards, and these girls are delivering papers, and that's sort of the nostalgia factor really, I think, would bring in a wider audience. And I also love the idea of young girls being empowered protagonists in stories. I think that that's great. There's some cursing and there's some violence in this comic, so no. But I think if I were reading this as a 15-year-old, I would think these girls were so cool, and I would think this story was so cool because it had girls my age-ish in it, you know what I mean? And I think that there's not a lot of representation in that way, so this would be something cool. Give it a read before you give it to your teen kid, but like, I would have loved it when I was that age, but I mean, look at me, I have purple hair and I wear purple lipstick. Like, clearly I wanted to be in a girl biker gang. I'm just living out my childhood fantasies. So if you're looking for some kick-butt female heroines to look up to, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, she's not a bad one to pick. But try Mac, she's awesome. Hi, I'm very close to the camera so we can talk like friends. Real talk. You're probably sick of hearing me talk about the representation of women in comic books because I know I'm like a broken record. But I'm not sorry, because it's really important. If you didn't know, I'm a journalist, which means that I am a woman in a male-dominated industry. My full-time job and passion is news. I love that I get to do these fun things on the side, but news is really where it's at. And sometimes working in a male-dominated industry as a woman means that you have to do things to have the appearance of being cutthroat or kick butt. And sometimes that means losing your soft edges. And I love when I see well-written female characters like Mac or Carol Danvers being both kick butt and also soft around the edges. I think that that's really important. And I think that it will show future generations and also even people like my generation or older that we're turning a corner. We're turning a corner where it's now acceptable for women to be both kick butt and soft. And if you're hearing this and you think, wow, like we're already there, talk to a woman. But I know you didn't come here for political commentary on women versus men and women in the workplace, so back to your regularly scheduled programming. That was difficult to say. Regularly scheduled programming. But these were my comic picks of the week, and I will see you again next Thursday.